You, not seeing any, that's right for pledge, please. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Don, will you do a roll call, please? Or Danielle, so you do a roll call, please. Sorry, we'll go back there.
Sure. Councilmember Flesh.
Here.
Councilmember Stern. Here. Councilmember Gilmore.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sherman is absent this evening. Councilmember Pat.
Here.
And Councilmember Gutierrez.
Here.
Thank you. Danielle, is there a motion to excuse the council member?
I move to. I motion we excuse council member. Sherman for the meeting this evening. Second.
All right, there's motion and second to excuse Councilmember Sherman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Council have any late changes to the agenda? Right, city manager, you have any late changes?
I don't have any changes.
All right, moving on. Council have any board reports to share? Moving on. Has everyone reviewed the items on the consent agenda?
Yes,
Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as published.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, at this time, members of the public are invited to make public comment on city related topic. Danielle, anyone signed up for general public comment?
Yes, we do. The first person is Jenny Lynn Wilkinson.
Hello, I'm Jenny Lynn Wilkinson. The Constitution of the United States has dictated our ethics and continues to do so. As patriotic Americans, it is our duty to uphold the founding principles found therein. The only crime expressively defined within its pages is treason. Defined as a wrongful intent of levying war and adhering to enemies of the citizens or the county wherein they dwell, and giving aid and comfort to such enemies and citizens. The 14th Amendment of the United States says that no state shall make or enforce laws which shall urge privileges for the immunities of citizens of the USA. And it further states not to deny personal jurisdiction for protection of the laws. And I'm honored to live in a city whose council members not only support equality for all citizens, but exemplify what a true dedicated American living truly are by Sherman's revolution.
Next, we have Pastor Kelly Dahlman.
Hello, Council. I'm here to speak on behalf of the proclamation. My name is Kelly Dahlman Oath. I am the pastor at Shelton United Methodist Church, just up the road. And while I recognize that not everyone here in the room would necessarily call themselves Christians, I will speak the truth about what I know. I went to school. I studied Greek and Hebrew, the Old Testament and the New Testament for 5 years. I've been reading, studying, teaching, and preaching the scriptures for over 30 years. As a United Methodist pastor, I have lost count of the number of times people who claim to be Christian while trying to use the Bible to dehumanize God's beloved lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender children. We don't have time for a comprehensive Bible study tonight, but I'm available if anybody's interested. But I can list the six verses, plus the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, that the same Christians will use to biblically assault my LGBTQ siblings. 6 verses and one poorly understood story that is about hospitality and following God's command to care for the poor and needy. As Ezekiel clearly states, now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. 6 other verses out of 31,201 verses in the Bible 0.01% of the Bible. And if we had time, I could show how each of those verses are poorly misinterpreted and have nothing to do with homosexuality and everything to do with assault, economic subjugation by men in power, and sexual slavery and temple prostitution, all of which we should all condemn, and none of which has anything to do with the queer community today. Further, while 0.01% of the Bible does contain these poorly translated and misinterpreted verses, over 350 times the Bible says something about love, and over 2,000 verses talk about caring for the stranger, the widow, the orphan, the poor, and the immigrant, and those who are oppressed. So I urge those Christians who are so concerned about what the Bible says to redirect their time and energy to loving their neighbors and caring for the stranger, the widow, the orphan, the poor, and the immigrants in our community. I urge them to give their attention to the very clear, unmistakable, and oft-repeated commands to love and care, and to stop bastardizing those 6 misinterpreted verses that bludgeon our queer siblings. Further, I would add that we should pay attention to what Jesus does. He has condemnation for those with religious power, and love and acceptance and concern for those they oppress. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gabriel Mora.
My name's Gabriel Mora. I feel the need and I felt compelled to come up here. I was gonna prepare something articulate and really intelligent sounding. But I figured I'd just come out and speak from my heart. First off, I'd like to start that for the first part of my life, I was very into New Age and astrology, drugs and alcohol, and I thought I was very smart. And I thought that I was well worldly and I had all this knowledge, but as I looked into these things that I was learning, it turns out that all this stuff that I thought I knew was important, that was getting me above my possibilities, was all about the self. And it was all deceptive, and I was being deceived along with deceiving other people, teaching them this stuff. And it wasn't until I found Christ that I was actually able to put aside my drug use, put aside my fornication, and actually be able to fight these things that had control of me. And I tried to get sober many times beforehand, but it was always me, myself, and I trying to do it, which is why I kept failing. And this time that I have Jesus on my side, I've actually been sober for about 2.5 years. And I have a family because of it. And I feel like I would be doing it injustice if I didn't share that because of Christ, I've made it this far. And I'm not here to talk about the LGBTQ community in a bad fashion, because I'm following the instruction of Jesus, which is to love the sinner and not the sin. And to be an example just like he was, and have conversations with all people, and also share that the pride thing to me seems kind of deceptive, because again, when you talk pride, you talk about your own identity, you talk about your own sexuality, you talk about self, these things that you want to accomplish for extended. It's all just, it's not biblical. It's not caring about the community, it's all about the self. So if we really want to care about those people around us, and I think we just need to have those conversations, but and I'm very shaky because I just want to just let you guys know that I'm just coming here speaking from the heart, and I just want to share that if it wasn't for me putting aside my selfishness and my lustful ways and my addictions, and actually walking the walk and talking the talk and loving my neighbor, I wouldn't be here today. So I just owe it to Jesus, and I owe it to all you guys to just really food for thought about what is it that we're celebrating. Are we really progressing, or are we just compromising? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Philip Wilson.
Good evening, council members and fellow citizens. My name is Philip Wilson. I am a Christian, and that is in faithfulness that to Christ, and that is more important to me than anything else. The first thing you have to do in order to become a Christian is to admit you've been wrong. Without doing so, you are not able to become a Christian. Secondly, Christians recognize that they're not omniscient, and they never will be. And so we should operate with humility, for pride goes before a fall. Thirdly, this is such an important belief. As Christians, we believe that all men are created equal. And of course, this is actually where we get that idea from in our own Declaration of Independence. Clearly, we're not all equal in lots of ways, but before God, we all stand on equal ground. From the tiniest embryo to the most aged among us. This is the source of the phrase that all men are created equal. Genesis 1 tells us that God created man, male and female, in his image. Part of this image is that he has given us a rational mind, to be able to reason, and to consider arguments that are made by others. Fourthly, as a Christian, I'm going to pursue what is true. I don't want to hold on to false beliefs. Fifthly, we all have emotional connections to the things that we believe, and it's often those emotions that keep us locked into the belief system rather than the veracity of the belief itself. I believe there's some very dangerous ideologies that are very destructive in our culture today, and they revolve around sexuality. To begin with, we should be careful to distinguish between ideas and people. We should be gentle with people and ruthless with ideas. The idea that my sexual feelings and preferences are my identity really start with Antonio Gramsci, an early communist. And while he sat in an Italian jail, he tried to figure out why it was that communism was not moving forward in Europe the way that Marx had said that it would. And when he realized it was the pre-political institutions that were keeping that from happening, namely the church and the family. And so, excuse me, he developed some ideas as to how to undermine that. And those were then taken up by what was called Frankfurt School in Germany in the 1930s. Many of those people being Jewish fled to America, and they brought those ideas here with them, which they spread in our college campuses, coming out especially in the 60s. There are two distinct sets of individuals who are going to be the victims of this ideology, women and children. Thank you.
Up next, we have Kathy McDowell.
And the new council member, welcome. I'm just gonna keep this short and sweet. The subject was last year, came up last year also, and we voted on it to accept it. I don't feel that this is a proclamation that should be brought to the city before the citizens. There's too much divisiveness in this proclamation, and I think that we need to consider it something that we do not vote on, that you do not vote on as a city council. Thank you.
Up next, we have Dakota Dilk.
I'm here to speak in favor of the Pride Proclamation, the safety and community of our here citizens is important. I've written a poem that I wrote last year for Trans Visibility Day in Olympia. It's written by the winners. Maybe that's why they can't speak out. They attempt to erase us from history, no longer a whisper. We speak up, get loud. We are ready to fight for justice. The deaths of trans teens don't scare them. They think we spread like a virus. Funny, because they don't seem to care about the real one. We are a scapegoat for the problems they can't see, but can't admit to. They're convinced too that it's hard to explain transience to children. But when my mom told my 5-year-old nephew Dakota is a boy now, he simply responded, okay. Tell me which is harder, that conversation or telling a child whether trans teachers, classmates, family, friends aren't here. Why we did nothing to stop it. They call transness an epidemic. I agree. I see an epidemic of people who are learning to love who they truly are. How elegant is that? Just because we don't fit into a neat little box, we are demonized, villainized, and worse. While they attempt to eradicate, erase us from the history books, remember that they can't. We're all around. We're gonna stay in town. We've been run underground, but now we're gonna stand our ground. It's time to get up in the now and shout. It's time to write ourselves back into history because they can't erase us, but we don't have to stand down and watch as they try to make us. We're not free until we're all free. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Susan Kirchhoff.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Nisco, community members. My name is Susan Kirchhoff. I'm the founder and executive director of the Youth Connection. We currently have 2 centers located in downtown Shelton and Belfair. We operate 6 off-site housing programs and are currently working to do 12 transitional housing units in our upstairs building of the 2nd Street. I'm here tonight as a representative of our nonprofit homeless response system that is working to create a change. The Youth Connection is hosting a provider party with a purpose on June 13th at 9 a.m. and hopes to change how outreach is conducted in our community and create a system which works together to support the whole person and find a solution for Mason County homelessness. Homelessness in Washington State in 2023 annual report, according to the Department of Commerce, shows a 9% increase. Unsheltered homeless increased 21%, and that excludes King County. There are at least 13,000 young people ages 12 to 24 on the streets or in unsafe, unstable housing situations referred to as unaccompanied youth. Someone without a parent or a guardian to help them. 50% of these are youth of color. Up to 40% of these experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ+. And the reason for that is family rejection based on sexual orientation or gender identity. That is sad. We see it daily in our center. We see that crime and that horribleness happen. Thank you to the City Council for supporting these young people and people and adults who identify as LGBTQ+, and recognizing that the word pride is an integral cultural concept within this community, representing solidarity, collectivity, and identity, as well as resistance to discrimination and violence. And as a Christian myself, I will tell you, that's not what the Bible says. It says love everyone. The Youth Connection works hard to provide cultural activities each month, Black History Month in March, Women's History in April, Asian History in May, and this month we will celebrate Pride. We are an all-inclusive and welcoming organization which focuses on embodying everyone without prejudice and serves all young people equally with the goal of finding stabilized housing. Prevention is the key to chronic homelessness. Almost 50% of our adults currently state they experience homelessness as a young person. Our community, it has to start here with you as the City Council. We must change how we look at homelessness, and it's not going away. It's something we have to work on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Beatrix Kusanagi.
I lived here in Shelton for 3 years, now in September, and I prepared a speech for the proclamation.
Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. Chief Seattle, spoken in 1854. My name is Beatrix Kuznagi, and I am proud of the person I am today. While I may have a long and arduous road ahead of me, the path I've traveled to get here has not been without strife or peril, preparing me for whatever obstacles that may come. I was born in the Utah blizzard of '88, raised by my single mother. Empathy, tolerance, equality, and a love for all living beings became my moral code and the compass for life's journey. The words and actions of Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi were spoken of with great reverence always, and though I always sought nonviolent solutions, I was not always met with peaceful outcomes. It was then I learned of great Americans who would not be docile in the face of injustice, but instead stand firm in their resolve. Malcolm X, Geronimo, and Marsha P. Johnson. Inspired, I did what most Midwest kids wanting to make a difference do and joined the Army. I served my 6 years as a combat engineer, deployed to both Iraq and Afghanistan, was later medically discharged with a spinal injury and PTSD. Foolishly, I thought my fighting days were over. The fight for equality is never over, however. The lesson I would learn in 2016 as I watched so many friends and family experience injustice and discrimination. Families torn apart by litigation and deportation, and neighbors sit against each other on the premises of making America great again. Malcolm X once said, "You're not to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it or says it." His words ring within me now more than ever at the eve of this upcoming election, and so I leave you with this. Celebrate each other's differences instead of being intolerant of them. Love, don't hate thy neighbor. As Marsha P. Johnson once said, "No pride for some of us without liberation for all of us." Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Billy Thomas.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Onisco. Please give my best to Deputy Mayor Sharon Sherman to be here. I stand before you this evening with my heart full of gratitude as we come together to support and celebrate Shelton's LGBTQ+ Pride Proclamation. This moment signifies a remarkable step toward our journey towards inclusivity and acceptance, and I'm deeply moved by the progress we've made as a community. Over the past 2 years, many of us have worked tirelessly to ensure that Shelton's LGBTQ+ voices are heard and respected. We've written letters, spoken at meetings, and we've rallied together to support a cause that's vital to the fabric of our community. Tonight, seeing that proclamation on the agenda without a last-minute push has filled me with hope and optimism for our future. This Pride Month proclamation is more than just words on paper. It's a symbol of our collective commitment to creating a city where everyone can live authentically and without fear. It represents our shared values of love, inclusivity, and human dignity. By affirming this proclamation, we're telling the LGBTQ+ residents and visitors that Shelton is a place where you belong, your identity is honored, and your contributions to our community are cherished. Let's celebrate this moment as a testament to our progress and our commitment to an ongoing journey towards equality. Together, we can build a future where no one feels marginalized or excluded, where every person is seen and valued for their intrinsic worth. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each of you and your support, and the many community members who have championed this cause. Your efforts have all brought us to a significant milestone, and the continued dedication will guide us toward even greater achievements. Together, we can ensure that Shelton remains a city of acceptance, compassion, and unity. Thank you for your attention and for your recognition.
We have one more person on Zoom, Colleen Carmichael.
Good evening, Mayor Inesco and fellow council members. I'm Colleen Carmichael, the Executive Director of Quixote Communities, and I represent the Homeless Task Force here in Mason County. According to Psychology Today, 31% of individuals in the United States reported experiencing bullying as an adult, and 43% reported that bullying seems to be more acceptable. As service providers, we have witnessed bullying towards homeless people on social media and in these meetings. We want to bring some of their stories to light so our community is reminded that homeless people are deserving of our support. One such person is Patrick. He was asked what it feels like to live on the streets. I feel crappy every day. I got stuck here. It's not nice. Adult bullying includes spreading malicious, false rumors about the target, turning the public against the target by painting a negative picture of them, putting down the target in front of others, and mocking the target. The target is often not in a position to defend themselves, as there may be a power imbalance. Bullying is a type of aggressive behavior. Patrick was asked about his future. He said, "I don't look at the future right now. I block it off. I'm stuck in the present time." People bully others whom they feel threatened by and those who are different from them to establish dominance. Those who bully feel better by putting the target down because of deep-rooted shame or a sense of inadequacy. Those who bully have often been abused or bullied in the past. Patrick was asked what it would make him happy. He said, "Being accepted as a life form. I'm in a place I don't want to be. I haven't found a champion." Targets of bullying often suffer in silence because of lack of effective anti-bullying policies, stigma, and power imbalances. The peer group may play a role in maintaining bullying. While peers may not be in favor of bullying, they may contribute by staying silent because it's too risky to confront the bully. Patrick was asked what he believes in. He said, "I truly believe that I need peace, but who knows what kind of peace I'm going to have. That's a daily question for me." What can you do to stop bullies? Ask yourself, how did I reach this conclusion? Did someone else suggest it? Do I know this for a fact? Do I not like this target for some reason? Do I admire the person bullying? We just want everyone to start by using compassion instead of shame. Compassion reminds us that others are just like us in their desire for happiness and freedom from suffering. Can you imagine all the good we can do if we supported people instead of condemning them? We want you to know that the agencies in town need your help, so please reach out and see what you can do. We proudly support your proclamation for Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was all.
I have two, Eric. Dean Jew, a lifelong Mason County member, thank you for being here. I'm not gonna talk about the pride stuff, I'm gonna talk about the homeless stuff. We have on our agenda, if I'm not mistaken, in the next 3 weeks, the ability and or the direction of clearing some camps up by the railroad tracks that have caused a lot of negative behavior in our community. If you take a look at what the railroad tracks, they go right past my business. What do you see? Countless people over and over and over and over coming through there. How many shopping carts do you see all over town? How much garbage? How much defecation? How much urination? It's unacceptable, and it's unacceptable that it's gone on for as long as it's gone on without anybody doing anything that produces a positive result. It's amazing. I can't believe it. Then I go and walk the tracks, and it's worse. The stuff that you can't see is worse than the stuff that you do see. And we talk about, people talk about compassion, and everybody needs a chance. You're right. Everybody does need a second chance, but you got to lift yourself up by the bootstraps and take that chance yourself and step up out of your own quagmire and look for the resources. We have a ton of resources and good resources. There's some bad resources, but there's some great resources. So let's use them. Let's push the people towards that. Brewer Park right now is an atrocity. I mean, it's almost getting to be as bad as it was last year. Okay, they're spilling over into private property. The other day when I had to come down and chase somebody out of our parking lot and have them permanently trespassed, I drove past Brewer Park, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and there was a dozen people up on Green Diamond's property, up on their stairs, their nice yard. I mean, dogs running around, you know, shitting all over, tearing up everything. I go, I mean, laws and ordinances were written for a reason. To keep society from going into chaos. They're not written on whether it's a 90-degree day or a 27-degree day. They're not written about a gender or a sexuality or a financial status. They're written for a reason. And they can't just be used arbitrarily or not used whenever it feels good or doesn't, you know, it doesn't. Let's take our town back. Let's make sure that the people get the support that they need. Let's let them lift themselves up. I'm all about helping somebody up. I'm not gonna help anybody out. There's a difference. And we gotta understand what that difference is. And if people wanna stay there in the park and do their drugs and be on a negative behavior, then that's a choice that they make. Then we as a city need to direct the people that enforce that to take care of that and clean that up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank City Council, Mayor Nesco. Some people are talking tonight about pride. I'd like to just read something I've got here from the King James Bible. First one is Proverbs. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. That's the quote. Not pride comes before a fall. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Next one I'd like to read to you is from Romans 3:4. Let God be true, but every man a liar. I'd like you to think about these things. Not proclaiming pride for the entire city of Shelton. There are people who do not want this proclamation. This is not representative of who they are, their beliefs, their morals, their values. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Walter Stockville. I lived in town for about a little over a year and a half, mostly in Thurston County. Before then, I'm a mental health therapist. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about what the choice of the word pride is. I wanted to, my son came up before. And I feel like we got a little off the rails the last couple of speakers. So I wanted to address why it's called pride. When in the past, especially in our country, people with alternative identities had to keep themselves secret. Otherwise, they were in mortal danger. They were harassed, bullied, and even killed. And now that we can be a little bit more outspoken, we can talk about it, we can profess it in some places. We want to encourage that as pride. So it's not about haughty derision. It's not about false pride. It's about being able to speak out and know your own truth. And in this community, I think there probably are quite a few people that disagree. But I also think that
if there's not a proclamation about safety in this community, then we're not speaking towards a. I think that homelessness, which is clearly correlated with some of these differences in people who is a problem. Sure. I think that being safe to be able to profoundly say, believe in your religion is a right. I don't think there's a lot of difference in your right to be able to be an authentic person. I talk a lot of people about being their authentic self in the practice. That's a mental health practice counselor. And I think that is essential for mental health, a positive health. And I think we're taking good steps to ensure that for the entire community.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, neighbors, I'm Craig Darling. I'd just like to say that, I spent 40 years of my life in ministry. The church means everything to me. The message of Jesus' central theme in my life is everything. It's why I do everything from there. And I really am pleased to see other Christians here who care about it. I also grew up in a family where my father was a Democratic leader in Michigan. And I was taught very clearly that the separation from the churches continues and interests and the governments were two different things. And we are to respect both. And so I just like to be clear with the council that for me, I expect you to pay attention to the government's concerns. And that includes all the citizens and all their concerns, their safety, their concern, and the fear that some of them have. So the proclamation in my mind is a simple opportunity to state that we care about all of our people. And whether or not people of faith have said things tonight, I'd like to just say this to all my friends in the church. I happen to believe that the church and the Holy Spirit does not need the government to make it.
Talk to us, please.
Oh, sorry, the church doesn't need the government to stamp itself in order for the church to be powerful and influential and to make a difference in the lives of our neighbors that we all should love. And the government is better off when various religions aren't telling them what to do. And so I would just like to encourage the council to remember that you're the government and we expect you to take care of our concern, all of us. And the church folks that are here, God bless you and keep out there doing it. And we don't need the government to help us make powerful experiences in our faith.
Thank you.
Sign up to speak.
Please.
Council, I'll make it brief, but there's just a lot of people who don't want to be under any kind of association with what the proclamation would represent. And I think that I probably speak an awful lot of people that we don't have anything against people as an individual, and we really don't care what sex they do, we really don't. But my wife and I are getting close to having 50 years of marriage. And, we celebrate our sexuality. We celebrate the fact that, but to come under LGBTQ plus and all that, it just isn't something that we would want to support. I do believe that a lot of people misinterpret the Bible. The Bible makes it really clear that homosexuals are not going to make it into heaven, and that's not me saying it. That's what the Bible says. So, but we don't have anything against people individually, and we certainly want there to be peace and unity in our community, but we don't really want to be put under general proclamation that speaks against what comes against our faith. And that's what I'd have to say on it. I would encourage it not to sign any proclamations. I don't think it's the government's job to be supporting one particular group over another. I think we got other things to do. Anyway, that's what I have to say. God bless you all.
Thank you.
They should be stating their name.
Did I?
Yeah. Bill Welch, yeah. Right?
Bill Welch, yeah.
Hi, my name is Alex Davis, and I'm a resident. I'm gonna say that I think honestly, especially in our lower age demographic, the studies actually support that they expect us to be culturally relevant. They expect us to care about this stuff, and that is our future. Honestly, a lot of people who talked here who had negative things to say, they're not 100% our future, and I'm not trying to be rude, it's just the truth. But our young people of today are. And our young people of today are looking at us and they're watching and they're waiting and they want to know what we have to say. And if we have to say that we don't care about them being gay, that's fine, but can we still do it in support? Can we still support the proclamation? Because when we're saying pride, like the mental health counselor had said in the South, we're saying it because we should be able to be proud of our identity. Identity is a form of self. It's very important to who we are. And if being LGBTQ is part of who you are, we need to accept that. There is a large portion of our population, whether in Shelton or just in Washington state itself, who are LGBTQ. And there are more who are gonna grow up who are LGBTQ. It's just like with left-handedness. When you told people they couldn't do it, they didn't. Now you're gonna say that they can, so they will. But they were always there. It doesn't suddenly become a new fad. It's just as popular as it ever was. And you can look back in the history books and see that. But when we're talking about our young people and wanting to show them the way forward, the future, we need to show them that we support them, that they're allowed to be here. When we're allowed to be proud, all that means is I'm allowed to say, hey, I am gay, and I'm proud of that fact. And if I say that right here today, no one's gonna come to my house or hang me in a tree, right? That is all that pride is. It's saying that I'm allowed to say who I am, that I'm allowed to be out, that I'm allowed to say that I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of being a Christian woman. I'll say that. I'm also proud of being a pansexual woman, and I'm proud of being married. All of those things are true, and those are things that I'm proud of. That does not make me prideful. That just means that I can say that, and I can feel it with my true, authentic self. And I can be here and stand there and say that, and not feel any shame, any doubt in myself, or that that's bad, or that I shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I'm not scared. I don't know how many young people I've run into who are scared. They are so scared. We talked about homelessness and we talked about how many of them are LGBTQ. Do you know how many of them aren't saying anything? Because they're so scared. They don't know what's gonna happen if they tell mom and dad that they're gay. Do you know what that feels like? To be scared to tell someone something? If we announce that we accept pride, then we accept those people, we accept those children, and we accept them and allow them to tell their parents, allow them to tell their friends, their family, and allow them to be open.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody for their comments. It's a very brave thing to stand out there and talk to us, and I appreciate all your comments. Does council have any comments before the proclamation? All right, next on the agenda is a proclamation which Councilor Gutierrez will read.
I read this with all love in my heart and all humbleness and all tolerances for everyone who is here. Whereas the Shelton City Council recognizes and proclaims the month of June 2024 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer plus Pride Month, and whereas Washington State has a long-standing tradition of upholding the dignity of the individual, supporting legal equality and fair treatment for all people, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, and ensuring that acts of discrimination will not be tolerated. And whereas members of the LGBTQ plus communities contribute to our society's success in immeasurable ways. And whereas the City of Shelton City Council observes June as a time to celebrate our dynamic LGBTQ plus community and foster a dialogue to promote healthy, safe, and prosperous school climates and communities for all. And whereas the LGBTQ+ community continues to be a target of violence, harassment, and discrimination by many, and yet continues to thrive with support of LGBTQ+ affirmative spaces, agencies, and allies. And whereas, because of the acts of courage of the millions who came out and spoke out to demand justice, and of those who quietly toiled and pushed for progress, our country has made great strides in recognizing what these brave individuals longing to be true in their hearts, that no person should be judged by anything but the content of their character. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Shelton City Council recognizes June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer Plus Pride Month in the city of Shelton. All people are encouraged to join in celebrating diversity and promoting inclusion and equal protection under the law, and to join together to eliminate discriminatory policies toward any culture, race, or group. Signed on this 4th day of June, 2024 in Shelton, Washington, by your Honorable Mayor, Eric Onisco.
Thank you, Councilmember. Moving on, for only business item is a resolution for a great grant acceptance. Capital Project Manager Aaron Nix has details for it.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Aaron Nix, Capital Projects Manager for the city. We have some very cool projects that we're moving forward with. What I'm going to talk to you tonight is with regard to our satellite treatment facility up here by the airport. Some of you may recall that we received a grant for about $2 million in order to install a storage tank at that facility, with the intent that ultimately in our comprehensive wastewater treatment plan, we want to try to reduce the amount of water that's going down into the bay and utilize the satellite plant to actually make water, sell it, but also infiltrate it back into the ground. So you will see a project here in the next month or two where we're going to actually move forward with the construction of that project. We'll be out the bid. What I have before you is the second part of that project, which is an expansion of the headworks facility. The intent is that we want to ultimately be able to produce more water and rely less on the wastewater treatment. So what you have before you is a grant agreement to accept these monies so that we can design and construct the headworks upgrades in the amount of $3.2 million. If you have any questions, happy to answer those.
Donna, anyone set for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, move to place resolution number 1335-0524 on the action agenda for the June 18th, 2024 council meeting for further consideration.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? All right, we have motion and second to place resolution number 1335-0524 on the action agenda for June 18th. Council meeting for consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're on to our action agenda. We now have a public works director, Jay Harris, resolution related to 6-year TIP.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Jay Harris, your Public Works Director. At the May 21st briefing, I presented the 6-year transportation improvement plan to you. And for RCW is to ensure that each city and town perpetually have available advanced plans looking into the future, not less than 6 years. That's a guide to carry out a real coordinated transportation program. So before you tonight, you have a resolution and a project list, which is the 6-year TIP. A couple modifications were made to the transportation improvement plan project list. I went over some of them at the last meeting, and they're highlighted in your new packet. So the first one was Wallace Nealon and Shelton Springs Road intersection, that we added another $100,000 to that project. The state recently was awarded $1 million. The city was awarded $1 million from the state, and we're for the whole Wallace Nealon corridor. It was active transportation funds from WSDOT. And so we took the $1 million and put $100,000 for pedestrian improvements at the Wallace Nealon Shelton Springs intersection. And then we went down to the next project that's highlighted, Olympic Highway North, and took $800,000 and applied it to the intersection of Olympic Highway and Wallace Nealand up there. And so the active transportation is sidewalks and biking. That intersection has quite a few issues there that we're gonna try to resolve. And then the last $100,000 is all the way down at the bottom, that Oakland Bay Junior High. We have some pedestrian improvements we'd like to do there. Look at the overhead light, look at a potential of a median. And we think probably $100,000 should resolve that. So going back, so you got the first project, we had $100,000 to Olympic Highway North. We actually added 1.3 million to it, so that was $800,000 for the intersection. We also received $500,000 from the county STIP funds or federal funds. They're for urban roadways. They have to be designated for urban roadways only. We were notified a couple of weeks ago of that, so we put that into the Olympic Highway North project to do some additional improvements. It's a long corridor. It's going to cost a lot of money. Down by the bottom, you'll see the San Joaquin Otter Street pedestrian improvements. And we're talking to a developer up there about the potential of bringing a multi-use pathway from Capitol Hill all the way down to the bottom. Right now, it's very difficult for pedestrians to walk from that part of the city to get downtown. So that's added on there because it's potential that they'll get a traffic impact fee credit, offset credits for the capacity improvement for the pedestrians for the whole hill, for the whole neighborhood. So those were the changes that from the last meeting, and I'm open for any questions.
Donna, anyone have a public comment?
No,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Mayor.
didn't know. Well, you speak, Dawn. Danielle, no. We have reading the resolution number 1329-0424.
Resolution number 1329-0424, a resolution of the City of Shelton, Washington, adopting the comprehensive 6-year transportation improvement program for the City of Shelton for the years 2025 through 2030.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1329-0424 as presented.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? Is that my Open Bay intersection or crosswalk?
Yep.
Thank you. And the San Joaquin, so that's gonna be what, a dirt trail somewhere or?
No. It's gonna be paved adjacent to the road is what we're hoping. It might also be in an undeveloped right of way. We're still developing the plans, but it's gonna be a hard surface walkway.
I think it'd be pretty tough on that road.
It's gonna be a little steep, but people are walking the roadway right now, so we need to give them a better way to get off the hill.
I agree, it's hard for cars, a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's potential, there's some unopened right of ways, maybe further to the north, but there's some potentials, there's some opportunistic trails that maybe we can utilize and expand upon as well, so.
Right. Question.
Do we have enough capacity currently to keep all these projects going if we get all the funding for them?
We actually do. That's a great statement. So in 2 resolutions from now, I'm going to talk to you about that exact subject.
Keep them coming. Keep the infrastructure coming. Thank you.
All right. We have a motion and second to adopt resolution number 1329-0424 presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Your tax dollars at work and grants from our 35th, correct?
And
all right. Another item from Jay. SJ Alliance Transportation Conference update.
Yeah, so the last meeting, I explained to you that we have SCJ Alliance working on the transportation comprehensive plan for the entire city. So that is things like utilities, transportation elements, economic developments, park and recs, housing types, needs, capital facilities, that sort of thing. The transportation component of their work, they're working with Mason County and us both. needed some additional funds. We need to go out and do some actual traffic counts of the intersections, get the system modeled the way it is today, and then apply growth patterns onto that over a 20-year period. So having a really updated transportation comprehensive plan will allow us to better plan for signals and other type of capacity type of improvements, left turn lanes, that sort of thing. We're also gonna have them work on the non-motorized component, which would be really big, that we got a lot of things going on, like the Capitol Hill Trail down to the bottom, like the Simpson Railroad Trail, those sorts of things. So non-motorized, part of that plan is going to be connecting the city to just make it a lot more walkable. So the resolution you have before you this evening is to adopt the contract award with SCJ Alliance to assist us with the comprehensive transportation plan.
Thank you, Jay. Danielle, anyone had a quick comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, ever read the resolution number 1332-0524?
Resolution number 13320524. A resolution of the Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to approve a public works on-call consultant roster work order for completion of an update to the Transportation Comprehensive Plan.
Oh, sorry, we got a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1332-0524 as written.
Comments or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1332-0524 presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Another item, J.
Good evening, council. So Civil Air Engineers Senior Engineer Contract Award. Our engineering department, we've had issues recruiting a city engineer. And we've been attempting for the last year. Professional engineers are a little hard to come by right now. Building officials, same sort of thing. So what we determined some months ago is we put out an RFP for just senior engineering services. Went through a couple applications and determined that Civil Air was the most qualified engineering firm to assist us. And they're going to come into the office a couple days a week and help with our capital improvement projects program. Aaron here, and the list of projects seem to be growing, so we do need some more help there. They're also going to help us with private development review, also with the number of single family home subdivisions is increasing, and just getting those plans approved and permitting is real important. So the answer is, yeah, we have a larger workload, and this is one way that we're getting some people in to assist our engineering division.
Thank you, Jay. Danielle, anyone sign up for public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're reading a resolution number 1333-0524.
Resolution number 13330524. A resolution of the Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to approve a public works contract with Civil Air PLLC for senior engineer consulting services.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 1333-0524 as written.
All right, comments or questions? That's a necessity. Gotta have somebody looking over those designs and plans and that will keep everything safe. So
This is critical to being responsive to our development community at the same time and keeping some of the projects moving. As you council knows, previously, particularly some of the grant funded projects, we didn't have the ability or didn't have the staffing in-house to get some of the projects moving, and we lost some buying power. Those projects, it's important to be staffed up so we can utilize that buying power as quickly and efficiently as possible when those grant funds become available.
and sometimes it's terrible. It's been a year and a half we've been looking for an engineer.
Just over a year. I mean, yeah, year and a couple months.
We normally have two, right? We have two engineers.
Well, we have in the past, depending, Mr. Harris here is an engineer, licensed engineer in the state of Washington. So we've had some as public works director, sometimes a public works director has not been a licensed engineer, so it just depends on how the public works department has been organized in the past.
Right. Any more comments or questions? All right, we have a motion to second to adopt resolution number 1333-0524. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. City Manager Marcelo, information about committee and board assignment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you very much. As you'll remember, back on February 6th, we completed the assignments for council and committee positions. These are positions that might be established by bylaws from other organizations or established by the council itself. With the resignation of Councilmember Schmidt back in April, the recent appointment of Councilmember Sapp, we've had some edits and changes to make on this schedule of assignments. And so I just want to go through a few proposed changes from staff after I've talked to a number of council members. I think we're on the right track, but wanted to bring it to you tonight for action. First and foremost, the Economic Development Council. Staff is recommending moving that from a council position to a staff position. A lot of those discussions at the board level are specifically towards what kind of industry and development may be coming or proposing to come into this community. The city's role particularly is in land use and utilities. That's most of the debate, I guess, or discussion. That's best handled by staff at this point. I think, as you all know, you're not necessarily involved day to day in those in the land use decisions and utility decisions. So what we do is propose that staff represent the city on this council. It's done by other organizations, namely the PUD number 3. And then we provide regular reports to the council on any activity with the Economic Development Council.
Take those one by one. Council concur on that one?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Next one is the Mason County EMS and Trauma Council. I reached out to the contact with that council, and the city is not listed in their bylaws as having representation. So they said they'd be happy to consider that at their next meeting, but at this point, it's not required. It's not part of their bylaws. So at this point, I would say that we just eliminate that from the list. If they consider that and they want city representation, we can certainly appoint somebody at that time.
Concur on that?
Okay. All right. Next is the Mason County Housing Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Mayor Onisco serves on that board now. He took that role, I don't know, a year.
6 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah, and has been serving on that board for quite some time. Councilmember Sapp has specifically expressed interest in housing in our community. So I know that you attended the last meeting, I believe, as well. So getting up to speed on that committee. So at this point, staff would propose the change from Mayor Niska to Councilmember Sapp.
I'm good with that. I've been on that committee for 6 years. It's a lot of work, and I think they would probably like some fresh eyes on it. So, and it's a very important committee. It's all the funds from the state pretty much come through that board, and we recommend to the Board of County Commissioners how some of that funds are used. Driven sales tax for the county collects $2163. Recording fees goes to housing homelessness, and there's just a ton, and even some of the ARPA dollars came to that committee as well. So it's pretty important committee, and I think it could be really good on it. So and I have lots of other boards I'm on, official and not official. So
the next is the Shelton Memorial Park Board. I just need to update the dates and contact information. Councilmember Gutierrez provided me that information. It just didn't make it in your packet today, so I'll make that change, make it available to the council. The last recommended change is the council subcommittee on finance and budget. Councilmember Onisco expressed interest to join Councilmember Gutierrez and Sherman on that committee. That's kind of as needed, and the need is approaching us fairly soon as we enter into budget formulation. Staff will be meeting in retreat on the 26th to go through preliminary budget requests from each department, develop some priorities. We'll schedule a meeting quickly thereafter with the subcommittee to get some more guidance on priorities, and then we'll have at least 2 study sessions leading up to, the, public hearing. I think we schedule it for early November at this point. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room, in case, you know, financial conditions change or the council has changed priorities in the meantime, up until our adoption by, December 31st of 2024. This is the 2025 budget, I guess I should clarify.
My pitch would be, I was on that committee in the past and I gave it up for somebody else to be able to try it out, and I'd like to continue on it as council. Yep. So I think we concurred on everything, so we have any comments or questions? And we have a motion. We have a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Public comment. I'm getting out of it. All right. No, okay, now I think I have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the amended 2024 Council Board of Committee assignments as presented.
Second.
All right, comments or questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the amended 2024 Council Board and Committee assignments as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Mark, do you have a city manager report?
I've got a few items for you tonight. The one thing I did want to mention, we talked about the transportation improvement plan, the 6-year transportation improvement plan, and the transportation comprehensive plan. Those are critical elements to be eligible for grant funding. So these are really critical to have not only the plan in place, but an accurate plan that takes into account existing needs and future needs in our community. So it makes us eligible for grant funding. It's really important to us moving forward. We've been fairly successful with staff. I want to recognize our Forest Festival activities last weekend and the tremendous amount of volunteerism that we saw in that community to pull off this event. Thank goodness it was mostly dry. I saw some of you after the parade route and you weren't really dry, but I got to sit under a tent. So easy for me to say, right? But it's you know, great to see so many people out in our community enjoying our downtown. Loopfield was as busy as I've seen it, I think, for the logging show in a long time. Tolly was prominent, the caboose prominent in our community with its recent work and preservation project that happened down there. So just want to bring that forward to the council. The last thing I have for you tonight is I was contacted by a representative from the United States Postal Service regarding Post Office Park on Friday. They have offered to enter into a lease negotiation to preserve Post Office Park. They have some stipulations. They want to maintain the former parking. For those of you that weren't here in 1997, the city entered into a lease agreement with Postal Service for the park for 20 years, and it created angle parking on Franklin and on 2nd Street. When that lease expired, we removed that signage for that parking. It's primarily used by Postal Service employees now, but they want to memorialize that and sign that again. They also want to consider the funds that have been expended to date as lease payments. Again, this is a verbal. We haven't got into serious negotiations at this point, but these are some verbal, communications that we've had so far. But maintain or keep, if you will, not all the funds were distributed to the Postal Service. Some were to an engineering firm to do survey work. And then they talked about a short termination clause. I'll have to see what they propose with that. I certainly wouldn't want something that might be so short that it made a tree lighting ceremony or some other activity like that come into jeopardy, be canceled. So
We've got past the July date. So talking about that.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
All right, so save the part for now.
Yeah, I think that's specifically off the table now with that phone call. I think there's not just the council and city staff, but Alana Dickinson, who's had a couple events down there and led a couple protests, if you will, down there at Post Office Park and out on Railroad, bringing attention to this issue. Our federal delegation, Representative Kilmer and Cantwell and Senator Murray, and then Representatives Couture and Griffey and Senator McEwen have all expressed interest in this issue and brought it to light back in Washington DC with United States Postal Service. So I think there's been kind of that groundswell that's helped bring this maybe to more attention than what they thought they would receive back in DC. So I'm pleased that they've reached out to us, and I guess for council's consideration tonight, I would just ask if it's appropriate for myself to enter into negotiations with USPS for post office park lease, and then I would bring you back regular updates. And obviously, the council would approve whatever draft lease would come across the desk.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Great.
I just want to say, this shows that people coming together can make a
Get it done.
difference. I mean, we fought the government and won. Is that a song? We fought the law. No, sorry. We fought the government and won. And that was people coming to the park, people signing petitions, people calling their congressmen and their senators and their local legislators, and having get-togethers, waving signs on Railroad Avenue. I mean, this shows that when you come together as a community, you can do anything. And I'll tell you what, I was hopeful, but I did not think that we were going to be able to save that park. They told us July 1st that a tree was coming down. Well, they actually told us we could take it, which is the silly. But they told us that tree was coming down and that would become on the parking lot with nice big, razor wire on top of it, right behind the train. So the community coming together made a difference, and there we go.
I wanted to thank the mayor for his leadership in saying, hey, we want this park. And he activated everyone in the community. Everyone wrote letters. Everyone stood out there from the grassroots up. Missed the mayor, talked to people and got things done. And I want to thank him for saving the tree in the park. And the trees won over the parking lot. And that's a big deal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think it was our community, but thank you. Great community, and the Dixon family.
Yes.
All the Hanson family.
Absolutely.
To go or starting that train as rehab and giving assistance, we got a great community. We got a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep the council updated on negotiations with USPS. They reached out to me again today, so I think they're anxious in getting something completed. All I have for you tonight.
All right.
Yeah.
The council have any discussion. All right, our next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, June 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. We also have a city session meeting left at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned at 7:12 p.m.